Just think about it like getting on the Staten Island ferry at nighttime and you're going to see the Statue of Liberty. I haven't seen anybody on that ferry say, wow, look at those floodlights. Kids, gather around. Let's get our picture in front of the floodlights. No, they want to take a picture on what the floodlights are shining on. Look, that's the role of our lives. It's not to draw attention to ourselves. My life is to be a floodlight for Jesus. That's what he's created us to be. So be it, is what he's saying here. Be what you've been created to be. This is what we see all through Scripture. Think about Acts, and you go to Acts chapter 4, what an interesting passage of Scripture. You see Peter and John, and they are preaching in the streets. And it's so fascinating. It says this in verse 13, and when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated, common men, and they were astonished, listen to this, and they recognized that they had been with Jesus. Well, they're preaching in the streets, and people would hear the words that are coming out of their mouth. Everybody's coming to Peter and John, and instead of saying, look at what they're saying, these men are amazing, they were preaching and living in such a way that when people saw them, what did they recognize? Not Peter and John, they recognized Jesus. Or think about Acts chapter 11, where you have Paul and Barnabas, and they weren't even in the streets. All they were doing were teaching many in the church at Antioch, just teaching in the church, living, raising families, being good citizens. And listen to what it says in Acts chapter 11, verse 26. And it says, for the whole year they met with the church and taught a great many people. And in Antioch, the outsiders saw the disciples, and that's where they were first called Christians. Outsiders, lost people in Antioch, saw the church, how they were living, how they were teaching, how they were treating people, and said, we got to come up with a name for these people. Let's call them, this is the first time in the Bible that Christians are referred to as Christians. Before this, they're called people of the way. Outsiders said, well, let's call them Christians. Why? Because they're acting just like Jesus.